him, and I was like, I don't know what to do. He came over and he saged the house for us. He was like, something's got to be going on. I asked him, I was like, do the tarot cards and they answer questions? And he was like, yeah. Do you want me to bring them over, see if we can find out what's going on? He brought them over, and my son, we had his swing set up in our bedroom for him to sleep in. I had the baby monitor pointed at him so I could see him and make sure he was okay. He started asking questions to make sure he was okay. But within seconds of me asking, is somebody back there with my baby right now? He lost it. The monitor couldn't see anything. When I went back there, the camera was knocked over. And the camera was on the opposite side of where the swing was, pointed at him. Something had knocked it over and I couldn't see him anymore. He was like, we need to sage the house again. We saged that apartment 3 times. We were a month away from our lease, and things kept happening in the apartment. Things that you would think are normal apartment things, but also to an extent not really. We started having a really bad spider problem. We had never had a problem with spiders before. My son got bit and had to go into the hospital because he had a hole in his arm from where he had gotten bit by whatever this spider was. We found black mold in the apartment. We were having all these problems that we had never had before. When we moved in, the apartment was fine.
After the event, Lainey and her husband realize that they'll need help. The rest of her story continues right after this. Stay with us. Has any food in your fridge gotten lost and forgotten in there? That's what used to happen to me, like that old bag of spinach. But with HelloFresh, you use up what you get because it's pre-portioned and delivered right to your door. HelloFresh has their new Fresh and Fit summer menu and chef-crafted seasonal recipes for the summer, taking advantage of the much-awaited summer produce. It gets from the farm to your door in less than 7 days, and you can actually taste the difference. If you're looking to eat better this summer, check out their Calorie Smart and Protein Smart options for lunch and dinner. I used to be afraid of messing things up in the kitchen whenever I had to follow a recipe, but with HelloFresh, they have clear, and I mean clear, instructions. You can't mess up the quantities because they're already measured out, and there's pictures in a single full-color sheet. No flipping pages, no imagining what it should look like. Go to HelloFresh.com/50TrueScary and use code 50TrueScary for 50% off plus free shipping. Again, that's HelloFresh.com/50TrueScary and use code 50TrueScary for 50% off plus free shipping. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.
He saged it 3 different times. We were still having problems. One night, my husband was home. My husband was in the kitchen. I was sitting on the bed with our baby. And I was like, John, are you in the hallway? And he was like, no, I'm in the kitchen. Why? There was a figure on the wall. There was a man in my... Maybe a minute later, they flipped back on, and my bedroom was facing the street, so you could see it in my window. There was a black figure in my window. It was probably over 6 feet tall. My mom was like, we're done. Like, this cannot keep on. We stayed in a hotel that night. We were that terrified to go home. After that, my mom actually met someone and I ended up getting remarried. We moved out of the house and I never really stopped thinking about the house. And I was talking to my mom and I was like, I wonder what that could have been because it got foreclosed. So I'm like, I wonder what if something happened where no one else wanted to live there. I started looking into the house. That property was a plantation and the property owner was apparently not a very nice guy, but he had a daughter that had died really young at 8 years old, and her name was Alice. The more creepier part about all of it, apparently they're all buried on the property. Their personal family cemetery in the woods behind the house that I didn't even know about. So we don't know if that was him or if it was somebody else. But from what I know of to this day, they're still buried back there. That still really creeps me out to know there were just dead bodies in our backyard. We had no idea. Looking more into detail, when plantation workers passed away, they were also buried on the property, but buried away from the family. They were buried on the side of the house. They were just buried there. I don't know what became of that.
Legends. And all of the episodes will stay where they are, so you can still go back and check them out. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. See you soon. Welcome to Scary Story Podcast. A man just doing his job gets an assignment that will be his last, but not for the reasons he was expecting. My name is Edwin, and here's a scary story. It was December of 1999, and at the time we had to carry 4 large cases of gear just for a short segment we were doing for a radio station about to launch the television portion of their show. I had just gotten married and had promised that the rest of my career would be mostly in the studio rather than in the field. Filming on location was one of those things that everyone on the team would look forward to back when we were younger, so we'd rely on the new people to take over the role for us. I had mentioned in passing that it would be my last. The most exciting trips had been to Japan and the Sahara Desert, going places I had only dreamed of as a kid. But there was always a certain distance one would feel when you are behind the camera. The signs of starvation or the natural disaster in front of you are only lights and shadows coming through your lens and nothing more. Everything would deteriorate after that. And this would be another one of those tasks. I looked at the list of shots that I needed to get, and I met with the host, a younger guy, about 25 or so, who had pitched the story to the network a few months before. I had been there for the second meeting, and I must admit that I thought he was joking at first, especially after coming up to the president of the network and the other directors about an idea for his late-night radio and television show. Radio Obscura, it's what it was going to be called. A show that would replace the empty gap of 70s hits between 11 and 1 in the morning. The network had a relationship caller hotline before that, where people would call in to talk about their problems and whatnot. But it got cancelled pretty quickly after the other woman of a public figure called in. The station got an influx of listeners after that, but the backlash and pressure to get it off the air was too much once the directors realized that advertisers wanted to avoid the drama. But this new segment was just what you're imagining. People talking about the occult, Dark entities, hauntings, and all that other stuff. The kind of thing people would look for at night, although the audience was already analyzed and determined to be primarily women, getting ready for bed and unable to fall asleep. Books, pharmaceuticals, and household goods companies were already lined up for advertising slots. The guy with the idea was well prepared, if anything. I tried to not captivate or entice, but trap. He wanted to make them feel what he was feeling, with no way out, and I kept thinking of the hard time us as his film crew would suffer during the trips. I had already worked with many personalities and was used to it. It seemed to bother the rest of the team. The pilot episode was simple. We would go to one of the islands off the southern east coast of Mexico. The idea was to go for a few days before the on-screen talent and capture footage, and then once the talent team arrived, they would tell the story of the place. It's going to be a complete ambience thing, where the viewers would get to experience firsthand the haunting of Witch Island. And it was during that first day when things started getting weird.